Dr. Carmen Smith, and welcome to the I Am Solution. Have you ever had anyone in your life where they had a tremendous influence on you, and it's maybe not until years later that you realize just how much of an impact they've had on your path, on the way you see things, and the way you've developed as a human being? Well, that person for me was my mom. In this video, I talk about her and the tremendous influence she had. But I also let people know that I didn't realize it at the time, like in the moment that it was happening, that I had her sharing these stories in my life. I never really got it until I was an adult. So you may have somebody in your life like that, or it may bring back memories of somebody that you know. So just open your heart and receive the wisdom that my mom shared with me. Love you. Second generation clinical social worker. So my mom was a social worker, and I had no intention of following in her footsteps. I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to go to Hollywood and make movies, and somebody to discover me as I'm walking down Hollywood Boulevard. That's what I was thinking about as a teenager. But my mom would come home and she would deal with pregnant teens, schizophrenics, alcoholics, domestic violence, and she would come home with a beeper. So that was back in the old days. And if there was an emergency, her beeper would go off at 10 at night or 11 o'clock at night, and she would have to rush somewhere. And then she would come and tell us that she was leaving, my sister and I. So one day her beeper went off. She said, I have to go to the hospital. One of my clients punched out his wife. The wife is in the hospital. He's in jail. I've got to go see her in the hospital. Bless his heart. And I thought to myself, I'm 14 years old. What did she just say? Bless his heart? And I said, no, Mom, you mean bless her heart. She's the one in the hospital. And she said, no, bless his heart. She said, nobody grows up thinking, you know what? I want to hurt the people that I love the most. Nobody grows up with that ambition. She said, that's not even him. He's not being himself. He doesn't even know who he is. So if I'm supposed to help him, then I need to see him the way God sees him. And it starts with a blessing. Now, I got that at 40. I did not get that at 14, okay? I thought my mom was naive. I thought she didn't have enough information. And so when I hated my dad, I would begin to tell her all the reasons why she should hate him too. I was like, you don't have enough information, Mom. This is what you need to hate. This is what you need to hate. This is what you need to hate. Once you have all that information, you need to leave. And my mom's heart was different. And so I grew up with that heart. I didn't get it at the time. It took me a while, because I had separated people into good guy and bad guy, and I could kind of see the clear delineation. And that guy in jail was the bad guy. My dad was the bad guy. And so it took me a long time of self-discovery before I knew my mom's heart. And so I went into social work. And when I went into social work, I worked for agencies. So I worked for Clark County Family Services. And since I was the low man on the totem pole, all of the senior people that were in the therapy department gave me all of the activities that they didn't want to do. And one of them was training correction officers. We were getting a lot of calls in the correctional center, and if you were a therapist in the county, if there was an emergency in detention, juvenile detention, you would run over there and handle that. If there was an emergency in the child abuse shelter at Child Haven, you'd run over and handle that. And if there was something at Spring Mountain Youth Camp way over in Mount Charleston, you'd get in your car and run over and do that. And most of it was suicidal attempts, suicidal ideation, assessments, all of those kinds of things. And so this one thing that I was assigned to do early on was to train correctional officers. And basically, I wanted them to have empathy, because there were a lot of calls coming in that had to do with pepper spraying kids, putting them in restraint chairs, and also doing things that were heavy-handed, that lacked empathy and compassion. And those are God attributes. So these people that are career correctional officers that think that their job is to punish, when actually in detention for juveniles especially, it's supposed to be to reform, to rejuvenate. And so my task was to teach empathy and compassion. Now that's a difficult task, especially for a person coming right on, but I was so naive, if you will. And I took my mom's teachings, but I needed to have some type of physical test or some type of thing to get their attention. So I came up with this one thing. In the very beginning, I gave every other person a rubber band. I paired everybody up. One had one rubber band and the other one didn't have a rubber band. And I said, okay, so now that you're partnered up, the one with the rubber band is A, the one without the rubber band is B. And I said, okay, so when I say A, snap B, I want you to take the rubber band and snap their wrist or their hand. This was years ago. I don't think I would do this now. So I would say, okay, A, snap B. And then A would snap them with a rubber band. And then I'd go on talking. And then all of a sudden I'd say, A, snap B. Go on talking. And then I'd say, A, snap B. Go on talking. And then I said, okay, now you can rest. I said, so A, how did you feel about that? And they said, well, I had the rubber band. I felt pretty good. B said, I didn't have the rubber band. I didn't feel good. I kept waiting for you to say, B, take the rubber band and now snap A, but you never said that. I said, yeah, I never said that. So you had the brunt of all of that, didn't you? And I said, A, you're the parents of the kids that are in detention. And a lot of those kids had bad parenting. But let me tell you, those A people, they're not bad people. They were following the instructions they were given. A, I was giving you instructions and you were following it. The parents that I work with and the kids that you work with, the kids that you work with are B. Let me tell you something about B. B is always waiting for their turn at power. And a lot of those kids that are in detention right now, they took their power maybe by stealing, maybe by assaulting somebody else. But let me tell you, that was not their first experience with that, of not having power, of being a victim. And so what you're experiencing there is A, the parents. That's who I have to deal with, and the kids. I'm their therapist. I need to work with them. And I can't see them as bad people. Do you know why? Because they were following the instructions they were given by their parents. So that's how you have compassion for people. You recognize that we're just precious people. And we're given instructions and we follow them. And it's not until we start doing self-examination that we see that there's a choice, there's another way of being. So I would have to work with the parents of abused and neglected children. I would also work with the children, even when they were in foster care, when they could not be reunited back with their parents. So I could not see the parents as bad people. I could not see the kids' behavior, and sometimes it was off the chart. I could not see the kids' behavior as something that was intrinsic to them and made them bad kids. I had to see them as a reaction to not having power.